people get upset about hypergamy. We're not going to change it. I've gotten to the point now where I understand this is the way the river is flowing, and I can either build a hydroelectric dam or try to swim up the opposite direction. My status as a man, whether my physique, my wealth, my facial structure, or my deep voice or my charisma, that would get me so far. Two things. Number one, it becomes scalable when I do it on social media, not as scalable when I'm trying to go talk to girls in a mall, right? That's the first thing. Yep. The second thing that was just absolutely fucking incredible, that changed my life, is when I started going out to clubs with playmates, and I told them, like Kindly Meyer, CJ Sparks are like two of my closest friends. When I go out with them and I'd be like, I like that girl, they would go grab the girl for me. And the girl is being grabbed by her favorite Instagram model. The receptiveness that I got is 50x better than being a photographer, like you said before. And that was it. It was the function of pre-selection, or what Dr. David Buss, the guy who wrote the book behind me, he calls it the mate copying strategy, which we can see in mammalian species and most two-gender species. Whenever you have a male that is surrounded by females, more females choose that male. I was like slowly inculcated with some of the pickup. I used to work for Mystery a long time ago. I would slowly inculcated with some of these pickup guys, and I would see a lot of the things they said that weren't correct. And I would see it wouldn't work. And then I lived in Atlanta, and I was around these club promoters who were just monsters. Like, these guys literally would go out for their birthday and they'd have 30, 40, 50 girls with them. And I was like, there's a disconnect here. I'm only going to pay attention to the things that I empirically see work and figure out the theory later. That's what I did. So that's one of the reasons why, like, Bilzerian came to my birthday party last year, is because he and I have similar philosophies when it comes to this. I talk to every girl, but I don't hit on them. And what I do is I want to create this situation where it's like, it's not just that, why are there a bunch of girls talking to Richard? It's, I literally cannot go out anywhere other than where Richard is, because wherever Richard is the best goddamn party in the city by definition, because Richard's there. That's the thing that Dan created, that I created here in Las Vegas, is that understanding. It's not that my social circle keeps expanding. It's that my social circle becomes the social circle. Does that make sense?
So, like, to quote something from Love Drop, who apparently really wrote The Mystery Method.
Yes, he did. That is a true statement.
Yeah.
And the first guy to ever tell me about Bitcoin. The first, Chris Odom's the first guy to ever tell me about Bitcoin.
He's a crypto guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of disappeared, though. I Googled his name.
You want me to I'll text him right now.
Heard of from years. Yeah.
hold on. Hey, Siri, message Chris Odom. What are you up to right now? Question mark.
Yeah. His theory is good. So, like, one of the things I heard him say that I thought was cool was, like,
I do know where these girls are. I see them all the time. Where are they going? So one of the things that I notice is, like, okay, let me work this backwards. So Lindsay Palos, I don't know if you know, she's a former playmate. So I would ask her, like, do you ever go out in Vegas or in LA? She's like, no, when I go to clubs, I go out in Vegas. So that was the first thing one of the reasons why I lived here is because LA girls don't.
So the lesson here is geography.
Yes, the lesson, or access. The lesson here is access, right? So that's one of the things I teach in my course, is that the most underrated part of self-development is access. The most underrated part of self-development is logistics.
I'm not gonna lie, I fucking slay. Like, for a fat old dude, I absolutely murder. Like, I've got several chicks trying to text me to get me out now. I'm a busy fucking boy.
Yeah.
But I still want to, like, how high up the food chain can I go?
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to. It's like, I want to see. Right.
For sure.
I'm rumored to be a billionaire. I have the world's largest diamond. Right. What can I do with that? Is there anything I can do with that? Right. And it's so funny. Good.
I would recommend starting with the guys who are there and working backwards.
You know, people are like, oh, rock stars, it's so easy to get laid as a rock star. And then he's like, yeah, but is it easy to become a rock star?
Right.
Like, how many hours does it take to do the impossible? And so, yes, if you can become a rock star, you get laid. And here's the funny part. Like, I've hung out with rock stars and they don't actually get laid that well.
Have you ever read The Setup by Dan Bilzerian?
No.
Highly recommend. There's two things. One of the things he talks about is going on tour with some rock stars and saying exactly what you said. It's like, nobody got laid.
Oh,
that's
funny.
The second thing, there was several other things. Like, one of the things he did was, there was parties. I usually bring somewhere between 100 and 120 girls to his parties. And the ratio he wants is about 7-1. Because what happens is, like, it's weird. This social dynamic between men and women starts to break down.
25% of them are on their period immediately off the bat. So
possibly,
that knocks out I know the frequency at which these things happen.
No, I'm just saying that doesn't completely knock them out, Richard. That's
You're still
all I'm
in there. You're like, give me my Red Wings.
Hey.
It's fine. Yeah, I get it.
You said it, not me.
What is all this?
Is that what's on your face, Richard?
I don't understand.
Okay.
It's fucking.
Listen, man. There's no try. There's only do.
I've run into every kind of, like, objection there is. I've run into all of them, and then just recently, I run into these transactional ones. Or here's the best part. Girl likes me. Girl wants to hook up with me. Girl won't because she feels like she's screwing up. She has to withhold that to get more because, man, I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah.
And then I run into this thing where girls like me too much, and then we can't hook up because they raise their standards. Like, I'm not gonna meet your standards. Like, you're not gonna get the stuff you want out of me. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work. But then with people they like less, no problem.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect I'd have to get people to like me less, and then like not respond to some texts so they don't like you too much, and then burn out. Like, it's weird, man.
Female nature is, and male nature, by the way, is a function of 300,000 years of Homo sapien evolution, 3 million years of hominid evolution, and 178 million years of mammalian evolution. We're not going to change it. While as I totally understand the whole, people get upset about hypergamy. The thing is, like, I've gotten to the point now where I understand this is the way the river is flowing, and I can either build a hydroelectric dam or try to swim up the opposite direction. So in this case, one of the things that I found is, like you said before, some of the objections happen because there's so much attraction and not enough comfort. And that was one of the things that I found that pre-selection really helped, is that I didn't have those objections when it was one of my extremely attractive female friends who was doing the introduction. The other thing that I found is when I talked to those girls that were impossible to find, the unbelievably hot playmates, one of the first things I always asked them is, when you met your boyfriend, what were the circumstances behind it? And the answer was never cold approach pickup in a fucking mall. It was always some person of value introduced me. Always. So that's why.
Yeah, but they've also never been to the mall, so it's like
right.
sampling
Of course.
If they were ever there, we could try it.
Okay. So here's a couple of things that I found to pull them out of those places. There's a couple of events. So red carpet at the Maxim party, 100, like the super, super high, what's it called? Reconfirmation rate, about 80%. Bulzarian's house, whenever he would throw the Ignite parties, that's like 8. That was the highest. Nothing was higher than that. If a girl said she was going to that, 100, almost 80, 90% of the time she was going to that. Charity event, like influencer charity event, that's like 50, 60%. And then when we got into photo shoots, then it got lower and lower and lower. Bikini competitions were about 50%. And so I would graph these things out and I would see, okay, which one of these events actually got these people to come out? The other thing is, for some of them, you might have a girl who, like you said before, has a boyfriend. Has a boyfriend. That's a fluid term. They have someone who claims, every girl, Richard, I'm sure you know this, every girl, there is some guy who thinks he owns that. Every girl you've ever been with, she'll tell you she doesn't have a boyfriend. There's nobody there. There's some guy somewhere who thinks that's mine, even if they've never even slept together. Every one of them has, in case of emergency break glass, there's a dude back there for them. Every single one of them. So that's why the whole boyfriend idea is a bit fluid. But in these situations,
I do much better with girls that claim to be single.
Okay, got it. Okay.
If they don't claim
that's
to be
why.
single,
But hold on,
it's
that's why but that's why they're not claiming to be single, because they have the objections already there. Does that make sense? Like, let's just say a girl says, "I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend." George Clooney walks up, "I'm single." Do you understand? Same girl. All of a sudden,
maybe
the objection goes away. Because I've seen this personally when I ask girls about this. It's like they're in Jamaica with me last week, and all of a sudden, none of them have fucking boyfriends. All of a sudden, none of them. I was like, I know you have a boyfriend. So it's one of these situations. By the way, men are just as bad. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like men aren't just as bad. Here's another thing. I was gonna tell you this off the air, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you're familiar with how the algorithms work on Instagram. So first off, 91% of my engagement. I'm running a business right now where I get most of my sales from organic. 91% of my interactions are accounts that do not follow me because I'm using Reels as opposed to regular posts now. That's been a huge transition. I had 1.3 million impressions last week, and that's where they came from. The second thing,
kick-ass.
The second thing I will tell you is that what changed a lot of stuff for me was there's a limit to how many new threads you can open in DMs per hour. Okay, and that limit went from 10, 8 to like 6. Some of my guys, what we'll do is we'll hire a VA to do 6 invites to an event per hour, to the point where we get 2,000 or 3,000 invites. You understand, even celebrities don't have 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 open threads with beautiful women. They don't, but we do. So what happens is, let's just say you're not coming to the States, and I'm going to do, I'll just throw something else, the Maxim Halloween party. And you know I have the guest list for it. So let's just say all the hottest girls you invite them, I put them on the list, they get to walk the red carpet. Even though you don't show up, you have open threads with all these girls. The algorithm, what it's going to do is, because now I have an open thread, they're more likely to show me as a woman your content, your stories, your reels, your posts. And now what happens is now Richard wants to throw this awesome party. Let's say here in Las Vegas, you have a Hex.com event and you want all the beautiful women here in Las Vegas to do this. You've already done the work ahead of time to have all these open threads. This is what I teach in my Men of Action program, what I'm telling you right now. You have already have all these open threads and you're actually able to do something that no promoter can do. Promoters cannot actually mass text on Instagram. They gets put in the request folder. Yours does not get put in the request folder because you
have a thread.
Because you already had a thread, because you offered value previously to Babes in Toyland, to Model Citizen Fund, to the Bunny Ball, to the Playboy Mansion, to EDC on the Marquee Skydeck, the places where the beautiful people live, where you're basically in a fucking Instagram post when you're there. When you consistently do that, now the threads are open, then occasionally those girls start following you. A lot of girls follow me because I was like the only guy that had Andrew Tate, Dan Bilzerian, and Paris Hilton all following me. They will see that and they'll be like, okay, who is this guy? Even though he only has 40,000 followers, who is this fucking guy? And that's essentially what happens. When you were talking about, I'm just trying to figure that out, this is what I came to the realization of, which is why when I go to the Maxim party, I take 116 girls with me. When I go to Bilzerian's house, I try to take 90. With that's generally the way it works. And we did a party in Miami where we raised money for animal rescue and brought 300 girls to that. That's essentially how that whole thing works. Now, are all of them the perfect, most beautiful people? No, it's a charity event. But the charity event, what that does is it takes the girl who normally is like, fuck clubs, they're disgusting. Every dude there's trying to fuck me and give me cocaine. That girl who's bitter toward the nightclub scene, she will go to an animal rescue event.
If I end up doing something like what you're doing, because I haven't figured out any other way, so be it. Maybe I should just try it because you say it works.
Yeah.
Right.